Anybody awake? Okay. There's a huge hole right here, so it's whatever's happening. I don't know. Alright, let's worship. You guys want to stand up?
that song because something I was just thinking about is that the reason why Edge even exists, the reason why we're all here, and the reason why we decided to do this and meet together as teenagers is because we believe in what a relationship with God looks like in your life. And we believe that since the beginning of time, God has been pursuing your heart for an eternity with Him. And I think it's so easy sometimes to come through and it's May, and I just want to encourage all of you for wherever you are, that God, He deeply desires to have an intimate relationship with every single one of us that's going to fulfill our hearts in the deepest places. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pray, and I'm going to ask the Lord just into this room tonight. So Jesus, we thank you that you are already here and that you love us and that you've been pursuing us since the beginning of time. And God, you want to have a relationship with us. And so God, I just ask that today as we talk and listen about who you are and the plan that you desire to have for our lives, God, that we'd be open and really pursuing after you in our hearts to love you with everything that we have in your name. Amen. Thank you so much, guys. Give it up for the band one more time really quick. Come on. Woo! All right, so I have a really cool thing here I brought with me. I forget how heavy it is sometimes. Come on. Come on. Oh, shoot. Oh, wow. This is what's called the very broken NTS competition cup that the blue team dominated. I don't know if I've ever seen a domination like last year. Well, hey, if you don't know anything about what this is NTS camp. We have a summer camp. Happens every single summer, and our campus here at Troy, we are the blue team. The blue team, can I get a little blue SA, blue SA, blue SA, blue SA? And if you're not familiar, maybe for those of you who are here, ooh, ah, how you feel? Ooh, ah, I feel good. Ooh, ah, how you feel? Ooh, ah, feeling good. Oh, shoot, everybody, that's right. That is coming up on this time of year. So you need to go online if you are interested. NTS Camp is by far the most powerful thing I think that we do here at Edge, here at Kensington. It is a week-long of camp where you get to experience Jesus in absolutely crazy ways. I actually know a lot of our students here last year, and on the real, like I know I could give you a ton of awesome, pumped-up blast words that I could use right now, but I'm going to be totally real with you. I know a lot of our students who have met Jesus in a very, very real way for the first time at NTS Camp. Additionally, it's unbelievably fun. I don't think I've ever seen as cutthroat of competition as I've seen it. Like, it gets vicious. And the games are really fun and like, oh my gosh. So if you love competition and you love to get angry at other teams' colors, red, and green. Green is trying to steal our chant up in here. Oh my gosh. But anyways, we're going to be competing because we want to go back to back. Can I hear? Touch somebody next to you and say back to back. Back to back. That's what I'm talking about. We're going to go back to back on the blue team. Last year we absolutely dominated it, so this year you better be. But hey, there is one thing I got to say. Tonight, the price jumps up at midnight. So if you haven't signed up, May 7th, tonight the price jumps up. So you're going to be wanting to get home, go to ntscamp.com to sign up under Troy, Indiana 3 at Taylor University. And also you have to sign up at another place at kensingtonchurch.org for transportation. So if you want to sign up, 2 places at the NTS website and also at kensingtonchurch.org. We'll be blasting those links out for you later today. Well, hey, another more sad announcement is that we do not have Edge next week because it's Mother's Day. So spend time with your mamas. They gave birth to you, they raised you, they fed you, they gave you ramen noodles when you were hungry. So you better be paying attention to your mamas. And hey, get her a nice gift. She's a nice lady. Get her something nice. So no Edge next week. And also, additionally, we do not have Edge on Memorial Day weekend as well. So have fun and go to Traverse City campus and enjoy their time. Well, hey, I want you to go ahead and stand up and give a few people some high fives and hugs. And I'm just going to go ahead and place this subtly on the stage just as a reminder to you how awesome the blue team is.
Super nervous. My second time driving my mom's car. Don't even have my license yet. Hopefully this works out.
Hoping that he doesn't notice that I didn't wash my hair.
Shoot, it's raining really hard. I don't know, should I go get her? I'll just text her, it's raining too hard.
Really? He's not coming to the door. Classy. Feeling hesitant already.
Oh, here she comes. Ooh, should I get out of the car, give her a hug? So, no, I was right before. I should just stay in the car, give her some distance. Here we go.
Disappointingly opening my door.
Definitely just missed an opportunity to greet her. She's for sure agitated. Rushed greeting.
Sensing that you wished you had opened the door for me. Realizing that you don't have the guts to do it. Mental note taken.
Generic question about your day.
Generic answer.
Freaking out because we're actually on a date. Can't really figure out what to say, but giving it my all to maintain an outward appearance.
Wondering if he realizes that this isn't my first date.
Compliment on how you smell.
Receiving weird compliment with grace, but I'm pretty sure that was the candle.
Question about your interest, and maybe try and take the conversation a little bit deeper.
Surface level answer for the sake of guarding my heart.
Texting all my buddies, letting them know how great this is going. Phenomenal.
Definitely texting my mom to tell her to come pick me up.
Oh my gosh. I think that's so funny. Oh, get her for poem. Clark is. Oh my gosh, hey, how are you? Yeah, you can sit on the side, it's fine. See, man, this is the beginning of the goals night where you let the lady do what she wants to. Oh, well, hey everyone, me and Natalie are teaching together today. Woo! Oh my gosh, we are in week 3. Thank you for the water. We are in week 3 of this series we are calling Goals, Relationship Goals. We've talked about relationships, we've talked about dating, and tonight we are here to talk about bumping uglies, sex. Yes, that is what we are here to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. Allow the room to get awkward. So, I wanted to start off by telling a really funny story about what actually happened in real life. So, tonight, because we're talking about sex, one of the things we want to talk about is boundaries and lines, because I think there's a reality check in this room that many of you are teenagers and all of you understand what boundaries and lines are, and many of you probably have set them up in your life. If you're trying to follow Jesus, maybe you set them up in your life. Maybe if you're not, you still there's some part of you that has boundaries and lines that you want to. But what I've realized about boundaries and lines is that a lot of times when you cross them, sometimes you just fly right past them. And so we want to tell you the story of the first time we ever kissed. I don't think we've ever shared this here at Edge. So, for me, when I was in, just in that stage of life, I was 21, and I had really strong lines and boundaries, and so for me, I didn't just want to kiss anybody, hadn't really kissed girls, and so when we started dating in December, and sure enough, we didn't do anything, and I was I want to try to keep it this way, I don't want to go anywhere, in a relationship, and so December passed, and then January passed, February passed, and here we are in the month of March. And so it was the first week of
3.5 months.
Yeah, it was the first week of spring break. And so for me, I'm all right, we're hanging out at our parents' house, and they went to bed at their 9:30 bedtime. And so me and Natalie are hanging out alone upstairs. which is always how this stuff begins. And I was like, all right, it was like the tension was already there. It was like, we haven't kissed yet. There's nothing, we don't want to do that. Like, we're kind of like trying to read each other out, and we're like, oh man, what's going to happen? And so it was that weird moment where we're like sitting on the couch together watching TV. And it's like, how do you have a first kiss? And so we're like doing the whole thing where like you don't want to, but like there's a party that's like, oh, you want to do this. And so we're sitting there like trying to snuggle. And like is it like you're kind of doing this stuff and you're like, it's not working. And so we stand up and we're like, okay, all right, okay, we don't know. And so I'm like, I'm gonna go get a glass of water. And she was like, you
went to the bathroom.
You went to the bathroom. And so I go over to get water, and we come back and we're standing there and we're standing in the living room. And we just we just begin to hug like right in like the living room, like right next to her TV. And we're sitting there. I'm like, oh no, the tension is so thick. Like it was like the moment. I was like, oh no, this is like the moment has arrived. Like, is this gonna happen or is this not gonna happen? And then she said it.
Do you like Kayla?
I was like, what? Like, what does it have to do with anything?
He like hadn't kissed me for like 3 months, and then I see some girl on his Twitter, and he like went to her mom's house for dinner, and we're like feeling it out, and there's all this tension, nothing's happening, and we like get up, and I'm like, oh my god, until like the moment's right there, and I know he's about to kiss me, and I'm like, you're not playing me, and I'm like, so, do you like Kayla?
And I was like, this is the most random thing I've ever experienced in my life, and I was like, okay, the moment's over, this is not happening. And then all of a sudden it was like, and then it was one of those moments where I was like, oh no, it was overwhelming, and so I like did the whole like, anybody seen the movie Hitch before? Like Will Smith, it's like you go 90 and they go 10, and so I was like I went 90 and I was like, what am I doing? And she didn't go 10, and I was like, oh shoot. And so then we kissed, and it was the moment we looked at each other, and she just goes in for it, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then it got to this point where it was like, okay, the boundary got crossed, and it was like we were flying past it, and we like fell over onto the couch, and it was like this like long time of kissing, and we were like, okay. We got up and I drove home, and I was like, what just happened tonight? Because that was not intended at all. We flew past that. And then the next day, I'm downstairs in the basement, and I'm lifting weights. It's like all of my stories include me lifting weights and then nothing to show for it. Anyways. And so then she sends the text. Then she sends me the text.
My mom saw us last night. Just kidding!
Oh gosh! And she was playing with me and I freaked out. I was like seriously like, oh my gosh, I don't want her parents to like get a gun and shoot me because like that's what they saw. And like anyways, it was a total misfire on our part. Anyways, so
Yeah.
For us, like the thing that I like realizing, like I know, like last week we had a really fun time of Q&A with some of our small group leaders and hearing their story, and I just felt like there's a lot of questions about like what can you do, what can't you do, and something we've established a lot is what Jesus says. He says like lust is the line. If you've committed even if you commit adultery in your heart and like you think lustfully, like that is the line for him. So even when it comes to like kissing and like boundaries. Like something we talked about last week is like, man, like I find that students that set the highest boundaries, a lot of times they often find the most breakthrough when it comes to purity and the relationship. But I think this is something we can all relate to, like whether you are single or you're in a relationship or you have been in relationships, is that the struggle is real. The struggle is real when it comes to temptation, even to engage in sexual activity or to cross lines. And sometimes there's some of us in here, man, you're like flying past lines and you don't want to be flying past lines. And all of us have boundaries or lines that we don't want to be crossing. And something that I realized is the tension in our life is that when the lines are crossed, control is lost. It's like whenever there's a line that is crossed, a lot of times it's a lot harder to control. Like think about some of your favorite foods in life. You can't just have one Dorito. You realize you can't have one Pringle. Like once you pop the fun, don't stop. Like for me, it's Reese's Minis. Like I'll buy an entire bag of like at first I was like, oh, I'll just have a handful, and then I'm like have like a whole bag empty, and Natalie comes home and I'm like, I'm ashamed of me. Don't look at me, I'm ugly. I had the whole thing. And I feel like when lines are crossed, like a lot of times our self-control is lost, and I feel like in the area of sexual purity, like that happens and like our control is lost. And so what happens is that we feel a sense of shame and we feel a sense of guilt because we didn't want to cross those boundaries in our life. And I feel like you had a really great insight of like what that, sometimes like that consequence is like, we feel ashamed, we feel like we've crossed our boundaries.
Yeah, so we kind of boiled down your questions last week. There were a lot that were unanswered, and so we took all of those and kind of boiled them down into 2 main questions that we wanted to address tonight. And that first one was, what was that first one? The first one is, what do we do? How do we stop once we get into that sexual temptation cycle, whether that is sex or some form of that? And before we even begin to address that, I just wanted to like speak to the room for like the last 3 weeks of saying like, hey, in addressing to shame and condemnation, like this is a safe place for you. And I know that we're talking a lot about boundaries and what to do and what not to do and a lot of that work, but I don't know. I just wanted to very first tonight speak to your heart of saying, hey, this is a safe place and you are loved, and the very first thing that we want to do is, we're going over all of this, but it's totally out of love and to protect you. And just really speak to you of like, if you're in that, like I'm sure we know, what's going on in this room, and we know a lot of your stories. And so whatever you're processing through tonight as we begin to talk about sex and everything that accompanies that purity, that it's okay. And I just want to address like, God forgives you. He does. The verse is, 2 Corinthians 5:17. This means that anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old is gone and a new life has begun. And that is true for you every day. Like we're able to wake up every day and say like, God's mercy is new. So I want to like speak to you tonight of saying like, walking in here, whatever you have, like God says his mercy is new for you. God's forgiveness is real for you. And I want you to understand that. I want you to begin a process. Maybe you're saying, okay, yeah, Nat, that sounds awesome. But I'm saying like, just start that process of like, whatever that looks like for you, understanding that like God forgives you. You really need to forgive you if you're holding on to something against yourself in that one. And then begin that forgiveness process towards other people in that situation, whether it's the actual person that you were with or friends or family members that hurt you along the way of finding anything out in your stories as we go about this.
Yeah, and like too, I want to say to you, like God isn't shocked.
Yeah.
Like for some of you, maybe you need to hear that. Like God isn't shocked by like some of the mistakes you've done. He loves you and he forgives you and he wants you to enter into that. And something that I think about, and I tried to find one, but we couldn't really get one. Does everybody, who in here knows what a Chinese finger trap is? Like, you know what a Chinese finger trap is? Okay, like they're like a tube. And the whole idea is like, if you want to hold your finger out, like you put your finger into, if you don't know, I mean, I'm sure everyone in here does, but like you put your fingers in, and sometimes the more you try to pull out, like the more trapped you get. It's the idea, it's like the ancient Chinese finger trap. It's like real complicated. But something like I realize is like when it comes to our sexual life, I think sometimes when it comes to God, we want to pull away. And so like we pull away, we try to run and hide, and it creates more tension in our life because we're not actually addressing what we need to address between Jesus and our friends and our family. So we like run away and we hide in shame from our friends and our family, and we run away from our friends at Edge or people here, or we run away from God. And I want to say like obviously the trick to a Chinese finger trap is that you have to move towards the center in order to get freedom. And so like in the moments where you feel the most shame because of decisions that you've made, like I would say that's the time where you go towards God because you realize that's how good he is and that he's much better than you even think he is. And that I believe he can even release forgiveness over you and he can relieve you of that guilt. And so we'll be talking about that, and I just want to encourage you in that. In fact, one of the what I believe is in Romans 8 is that for those of us who are following Jesus and believe in him and have given him our lives, it says in the Bible that there isn't anything that you can do that will separate you from God's love at all, ever, for all time. It says this, and I am convinced that nothing can ever separate us from God's love, neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither our fears for today, nor our worries about tomorrow, not even the powers of hell. Because purity was they held it to such a big deal in their life and what it represented because of the weight it carries between you and your future spouse, that they would, like their engagement process would get slowed up. like talking to their spouses, they would have to I knew a few fiancés who had to be like, honestly, like, I don't even know if we can really think about this and go through with this, because this is an area of my life that we need to get figured out before we say I do. In fact, I actually had friends when I was in college who they applied to go on missions trips. And they held purity to such a high bar, and not on a shame, no shame or condemnation or anything like that. But it was to such a high bar that's how they took it. That some like I had a friend who messed up one time with his girlfriend after just trying so hard to stay away, that he had to confess. And they said, "All right, we want to take a step back because this is a serious missions trip, and we want to make sure that everyone is really prepared and we take this as a big deal." And so for some of you here, I would say, number one, make it a big deal. Number two, I don't know what this means in your life, and I can give you a few examples, but don't miss this. Some of you need to do the hard thing. Some of you in here need to do the hard thing. And I don't even know what that is in your life, but there's something that's hard that you need to do that you're not doing, that you're holding back on. Maybe for some of you, it's actually talking about it with someone who you trust. Someone who you know is going to be there and who's going to love you and make you feel safe in it. But some of you need to do the hard thing. Some of you have a relationship with your parents where you could actually talk with them about it. And while it might be hard for them to hear, maybe that's the first step that you know in your heart. You need to do the hard thing and open up that area of your life. Maybe for guys specifically, if it's personal purity issues, maybe you need to do the hard thing and talk with your dad about it. There's something in here. Maybe you need to do the hard thing. And I'm even going to get real because of the first point of making it a big deal. Maybe some of you in here, maybe there's someone who doesn't have a regard for boundaries, and maybe you actually need to break up with them. And that's the hard thing that you need to do, because this is a conviction that you've had in your life. For real. I'm being totally serious. Maybe there's couples in your man, like you found yourself so caught up in this, and it's killing you inside, and you can't do it. You've been dating for months and months and maybe even years, and maybe you guys need to take a step back from each other and do the hard thing and love each other that much to take a break to help figure out your personal priorities, because it is a big deal, because it affects the rest of your life. And you're going to have to deal, honestly, this is something we're walking through. And so I'm sorry that I'm kind of laying it down heavily, but I love you enough to share this with you. And lastly, I would say this, and this is the big thing. If you're caught in this and you'll get out, as number 3, you are in charge of winning your freedom, because it's possible. You are in charge of winning your freedom. Now, me and Natalie, we love to have conversations with students, man. If you're struggling with personal purity, we love having those conversations. We can't have 140 accountability buddies. We can't do it. It's too hard. And you're a small group leader, maybe there's 12 of you or 15 of you or 5 of you. And I would say this, is that you need to seek out accountability for yourself. And I'll be totally honest with you, man. I've been in so many accountability groups, and I've partnered with so many dudes and mentors in my life. And here's what I know. Is that sometimes, not even sometimes, I know for a fact that you can always get around accountability. You can always find a way around it. You can always conceal or lie or not seek it out. And so if you want to get serious about this, you cannot expect somebody else to hold your sin or to hold your issues of purity or whatever it is in your life. You are in charge of your winning and your freedom in your life. And I know that's something that's been hard for me to figure out. For instance, in our marriage, I don't even have Instagram on my phone. If I need to download it to post something on Edge or record a story, that is a system that I've put myself in, where I am in charge of my personal freedom. I am in charge of doing that for myself and for our marriage. I know friends. I know some friends who don't have any search options on their phone, because they know that they can't trust themselves. So they have put themselves in a position to hold themselves accountable, and to also seek accountability with other people in their life, mentors, friends. And it's not just one thing, they do many. Because why? They are in charge of holding themselves to the victorious standard that they want to see themselves in. Because why? I believe that it's possible. And for some of you in here, man, maybe you are caught in shame. I know in my life this is something that's so deep, because I know I have a lot of shame from my past. But man, there is victory, and it is possible. And you need to understand that it is possible. And secondly, this is the second question that we want to help you out with, is how do I stay pure? Like, how do I? Like, if I haven't engaged in that, like, how do I continue down that path? And I think it's important even, too, to, like, look at the definition of purity.
Yeah, we got some questions last week asking, like, what even is purity? And we kind of wrestled through that question ourselves of figuring out what that means. But purity in general, like up front, purity is all throughout the Bible, and you'll see purity looks like God tells us to be pure in heart. And what that means, first and foremost, is purity is the state. Purity is the state of your heart and of your mind. So purity of heart means that you are not bitter. You are not holding anger in your heart. You are not jealous. You are not having pride in your heart. You are not sexually impure. It's multiple. Do you guys like hear what I'm saying? Like, purity is all of those things that are going to cause dissension between us and God, and it's everything that Jesus conquered. Jesus was like the most pure lamb before the Lord, and so he didn't fall into any sin. So purity, for what it really is, I want you guys to all know that up front. The way that we talk about it so often and like up here is we're talking about sexual purity. So I want you to understand that sexual purity is just a form of what purity is as a whole. Does that make sense? Yeah. So for sexual purity, the reason that we talk about that, like what is sexual purity? Well, God tells us not to have sex before marriage, and God tells us in the Bible, like, don't awaken love before it's time. Does that sound right? Don't awaken love before it's time, but that means like don't awaken that drive before it's time. And so I would say, how do I stay pure? Well, I can talk to you a little bit about, at first I was trying to figure out, what does it look like to stay pure in dating? And then what does it look like to stay pure in marriage? Like giving you a shot beforehand. But I think ultimately purity starts very first in your heart and your mind. And I think when I think of like people saying like, oh, how do you stay pure? I was telling Drew, I'm like, man, like when I think of staying pure, I'm thinking of like, how do I protect myself? Because I think staying pure, like we consider that like, how do I not have sex? And just like cut it off there. But like ultimately like having sex and like getting to that purity, like that's the fruit, that's the action, but you got to back up there because purity starts in your mind and in your heart first. Purity is not I want to say like, it's not so often I feel like it's just thought of as like, oh, I go through dating, I don't have sex, I get married, I can have marital sex and I'm perfectly pure. And that's not it. Because you can have impure thoughts in your heart and in your mind even when you're like in a marital commitment and having sex. And so as a woman, I would say for me, the beginning of staying like sexually pure often looks like being loyal to Drew and being loyal to my commitment with God and with Drew and watching who I'm trying to get attention from. Even as a married woman, like I can still go out, my friends and I can still go out and we'll be at the gym or we'll be out, and it's making sure that I'm not looking to see who's giving me attention and I'm not giving anyone else attention either. And that starts, I look at that, like that's something I've had to practice so I can be really good at staying loyal to my husband, even when I'm married, even when I'm out. Like Drew's freaking awesome and he's so hot. But like even like going out, like, like I have friends and like I watch them look around, but I know that like when I was dating, like something I really practiced was like, I remember when I was dating, I remember looking around and seeing, like when you're looking for a partner, you're like looking around for all the guys that are interested in you because you want to know like who you can have. But then like that's gotta stop at one point because it's not about that attention. It's not about receiving that. And then I would say sex is made for two people to connect. And sex was not made for one person to enjoy by themselves. And so like one way that just to like keep in mind and like set that picture is to not take for yourself what was meant to be for you and another person together. What was not made for, God made this beautiful picture of a person to be your very best friend, your family member, the person that you were vulnerable with, the person that you love the most, the person that you are committed to forever, and that person gets to fulfill all of your desire. They get to be the subject of all of your passion and all of your love and everything that you could ever give them. And that is so beautiful. But I would just say like another way to stay pure is just remembering that like sex was made for two people and not just yourself.
Yeah, and I would even say something we were talking about last week is like as I mentioned earlier, like because God's love for you is never lost, like in any of the process of you trying to seek purity, like, because God's love, like his love is not lost, like, learn to control your thoughts. Like, that is a huge area. Like, a lot of times, like, when it comes to purity, it doesn't just start because two people all of a sudden just realize they could begin to make out on the couch, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is great. Hey, do you want to go do this? Like, it started because, why? Like, our culture's embedded with sex, and you begin to think about it, you can begin to daydream about it, and so a lot of it will start in your head. And once again, like, you were created to have these desires. Like, that's not an evil thing in itself. Like, sex can be viewed in 3 different ways. Either it's God, it's like the thing, you worship it, like it's what you want the most. It can be gross, you can think it's disgusting, and some people, like at church, can say, oh, sex is gross, or it can be a gift. And that's what I believe. I believe that sex is a gift. And a lot of times it starts in our thoughts, and our thoughts will lead to our actions and what we do. And so it all starts in your mind. And I believe that when you start in your mind practicing purity, that purity will pave the way for intimacy with God and intimacy in your future marriage. And something that, like, we're learning a lot this year, and like that's been so interesting is like, sex isn't just about like having it one time on your wedding night. Like, having sex is not just about having it on your honeymoon, but it's something that you enjoy for decades of your life. And a lot of times, like, if you aren't practicing purity, you could end up, like, you could rob someone else of the intimacy that God wanted them to have. Like, you can actually, like, someone can feel stolen from, if that's something that's a mental block in their mind. I'm not talking about, like, if you made mistakes in the past. I am not saying that. What I am saying, though, is if you're continuing to practice impurity in your thoughts and in your actions and where you look and where you give your heart attention, you can steal from someone else who is your spouse, who you want to build intimacy with, and rob them of something that was between you and them and the Lord. So that's my encouragement for you. But you know what? Something that I've really helped, like, me and Natalie, because as I said, man, like, we're not perfect. I think something for us, and if you feel maybe, like, you can take a breath. Whew, we're done talking about all that stuff. We want to focus your thoughts in your mind. But something that really, really helped us is a conversation that we had a few weeks ago. And we were in downtown Royal Oak in my little Ford Fusion in a parking lot. And we were having this conversation because it had been a long, long day. And tensions were high, emotions were running. It was like we had fought the entire day. It was like her one day off of work, and we're going at it like the entire day, just fighting and fighting and fighting. And a lot of it had to do with boundaries and thoughts and lust and our sex life and everything like that. And it was just like so intense, all the discussion and conversation we were having about it. And we just had this breakthrough and clarity moment of, like, instead of thinking about everything that we are maybe ashamed of and all the areas in which we're afraid to fail, what if instead of talking about everything that we're afraid of, what if we talked about who we want to be in our life and who we want to be as a married couple, and what we wanted our marriage to look like? And so we actually had just, who in here actually went to the Bethel music concert that happened in Orion? Like, some of you in here, like, went to Bethel. Amazing, amazing. Well, we were there, and we got really inspired because there were 2 worship leaders, Jonathan David Helser and Melissa Helser, who did, like, the final set. They're unbelievable. And we just watched, and I was sitting there just, like, watching them worship Jesus, and they loved him so much. And you could tell they were kind of giving each other looks, and, like, it was this bond and this connection that they had with each other. And she's encouraging him in his worship leading gift, and you can see all their posts online, and we were just so inspired because they were so cool. And like, oh my gosh, what if instead of us just constantly focusing on all the things that we're afraid of for our future sex life and our intimacy, what if we focus on the kind of couple that we wanted to be? Because a lot of times we try to just stop thinking about it, but what are you putting in your mind? Like, what are you putting in your mind instead?
Yeah, I tell students often, but I think, like, so often, like Drew's saying, when we have anxious thoughts or when there's things that are negative that we want to stop doing, like anything, we always say, like, control your thoughts. But ultimately what that looks like is when you're trying to not think about lustful things, or you're trying to not think about things that give you anxiety, or you're just going through, and when you're clearing that space out, you're just kind of creating this empty space in your head. Don't think about it, 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 yeah. And you're just like, and you're like, I'm not thinking about it, I'm not thinking about it. And then there's just this empty space in your brain. And something that I learned over time like in the last year, and then it really came together just this random night when we were together, is saying like, whoa, like I'm gonna just sit in this conversation for a second, stop thinking about that, and we just kind of have this like aha moment of like, well, let's think about what we want. And so like we kind of want to like wrap this whole series up with saying to you, like, I want to encourage you, like, as you practice figuring out, as you start engaging in conversations with people about what this looks like in your life, and as you begin to make decisions on who you want to be and how you want to walk through this, like, when we're telling you not to fill your mind with those negative things, like, ultimately I want to leave you with, like, fill your mind with who you want to be and, like, dream about it. Not like filling your mind with who you want to be and you check all the opposite boxes of who you are. That's not it at all. Like, grab people, like you have couple goals, like have couple goals that are freaking awesome. And then like get to know those people. And like find people that you want to be just like. Like find people who are functioning in relationships that you think are so awesome.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I would just say, like, you need to be able to focus on what is true and honorable. And so this is the last piece of scripture, and then we'll close in prayer. Paul says this, and now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. And so focus your mind on who Jesus is and who you could be in your life and the marriage you desire to have in the bottom of the lung in your heart. As we talked about in the series, like one of God's goals for you is that he desires for you to be in a relationship that you delight in. Like he desires for your happiness in relationship. And so he doesn't want us to get hurt. So a lot of times purity, we think of it as, oh, don't. But rather purity is, hey, I want to protect yourself for the greater that's in store for decades of your life. And so think and focus your thoughts on what is true and honorable and trustworthy, and of Jesus and of his Spirit. Let's pray. Dear God, thank you for all of these students. God, I just ask that you bless their minds. God, I ask that you bless their hearts and their relationships and the relationships with their parents and their friends, God, that you'd allow them to find moments in their life where they're going to feel like there's people who are trustworthy, who are walking alongside of them, God, that they don't have to feel alone or in the dark, but God, that they have people that they can walk with. And Jesus, we just ask for your hand in their life to bless their relationships, God, that you'd help them with wisdom and give them all wisdom. In your name we pray. Amen. Well, me and Allie, we are up here, and we have something pretty cool to say, and I actually have a really exciting opportunity where I'm going to be stepping into a role next year where I'm going to be the young adults director over all of Kensington, which is really amazing, or 1829. And it's really hard to say because that means that this will be my last year doing Edge here, which is really, really hard. And so for me, this has been happening I've kind of been thinking about or praying about it in the process since November and December and January. And for me, it's been, I'm so sorry, but just saying this, but for me, the hardest part about everything has been thinking about all of you guys and how much we love you, and that, like, this is the hardest part, is like how much we love you, and like we don't want to leave. And so everything has been on amazing terms, and like it's been fantastic, and it's honestly an awesome opportunity because people have seen the way that we've created community here at Edge, and people have seen how we've formed that, and we have an opportunity to be able to create that where really there isn't any formal structure. And so this is going to be the last Edge season for me and Natalie, which is really tough. But fear not, like this is not like the last week, like we're going to be here for the rest of the year. And in fact, we're actually going to be here at NTS. So don't worry, we're going to win the trophy. But yeah, this has been, it's been very tough, and I want to answer too just any questions that you may have, because we're not sure what's going to happen next year. Like, we don't know who's going to be stepping into the role, and we promise we're going to tell you as soon as we can. We're hoping to by the end of the year, but we're so excited because it's gonna feel like something new, and something that I just want to encourage you to say is like, we're still going to be here. Number one, like Troy's our home. Like, well, you'll see us at church on Sunday morning. I want to come back as much as the people in charge next year are going to let me. I'm going to teach here and be around, here or there. But also too, like, I think this is a really cool opportunity too to just say, like, focus on your walk with Jesus and watch him and stick to him, because what can happen is like, I'll be honest about my life, is like, my youth pastor, he stepped away my junior year of high school, and it was so hard because he moved away out of state for my entire senior year, and I had him for 4 or 5 years of my life. And it hurt. It felt personal. And I just want to let you know, like, it's not personal at all, and like, it has nothing to do with you guys. In fact, it's like the hardest part of all of it. And but it's an amazing opportunity to allow your walk with Jesus to be about him and not about a time and edge, or that you're an edge, or that time you're not or there, because your walk with Jesus is so much more important than us. That life is going to continue, but like, worship the God who's on the throne and enjoy him. And I promise we're going to be around. We love you guys, and we're going to be seeing you each week on out. In fact, we're actually going to go into a new series. It's called Last Words. We're going to have, it's going to be student-led. So some students are going to share their last words going into the summer, and some seniors who are going to college. But also, like, the last week too, I'm going to be sharing my heart and being able to just talk to you about what I believe is the most important for your walk with Jesus just in your life and on into the summer. So I love you guys, and be praying for us, because this is a really tough time. And feel free to ask us any questions you want. We're open books, and take as much time as you need. But we love you guys so much, and this has been the joy of our life. So thank you. So if you want to just go ahead and stand, and I'm just going to pray us into some worship. Dear God, we love you, and we trust you. And God, when we give our hearts to you, we surrender ourselves to you and our agendas. And it's crazy to think that you love all of these students more than I do, and that you love them more than their parents do, more than their friends do. That you're pursuing love is so much greater than anything we can imagine. And God, we just thank you for people in our lives. We thank you that we get to enjoy each other and enjoy one another's company and have community. And so we love you, and we thank you so much for all that you have done and everything that we've gotten to be a part of. We thank you in your name. Amen. thank you that we are your children, and that you know what's best for us, God, and that you have a perfect and good plan that's set in place for us. And God, help us to abandon the fear that surrounds our heart and to embrace your love and to embrace the process, because things just sometimes don't happen overnight. But God, rather that in our heart, whatever it is, that we learn to embrace you in the choosing, to choose you when we don't feel like it, to choose you when it hurts, and to choose you when things seem like they're changing and we're out of control. So God, we love you. Amen. Well, thank you everyone so much. Once again, me and Natalie would love to talk and answer questions or anything that you guys have want to talk to us about tonight. But right now we're just going to go into our small group time, and feel free to make your way. And if you don't have a small group, feel free to connect with, you can come and connect with me, or you can connect with one of the leaders, Mitch and Haley, who will raise their hand. You can connect with them. If they just want to raise their hand, you can connect with them, and they can get you plugged into a small group as well. Thanks.